everyone, and welcome to another video by Liminal Spaces Talks Music. Today I'm going to talk about an album that I feel like is underrated. It's not as underrated as a lot that I've talked about. It's a little bit more popular, but I think it's one that a lot of people missed that I think is absolutely incredible. And this is a bit of a jump. I usually have a tendency to hang around in the early 70s, late 60s. But this is one that I absolutely love. It's from 2008, and it is called Censored Colors. And it's by the band Portugal the Man. And I know that there's going to be some knee-jerk responses to Portugal the Man because they had an absolutely humongous hit in the early 20s with Feel It Still, which I am super glad that they did because I believe that these bands should be huge and deserve tons and tons of money, and they got it. But before you judge the fact that I'm talking about this band on that song, I want you to know that the album that I am going to be talking about came out quite a lot before that, and is really quite genre bending and mind-blowingly good music, and absolutely worth a chance. And really, it's surprising how much this band has changed, and I still listen to their records. Nothing's ever topped Censored Colors for me. I think that they have embraced certain popular aspects that don't do it as much for me as their earlier stuff, especially Censored Colors. But I still like this band, and I still think they are worth a listen. Absolutely. So let's get into it. This album came out in September of 2008. I would say that it is prog rock with a little bit of psychedelic, or maybe psychedelic with a little bit of prog. It's really a very hard album for me to define, but that's where I'm going to put it. Prog rock and psychedelic. And it is recorded by an incredibly talented bunch of musicians. At the time, John Baldwin Gourlay, I'm sorry if I'm not saying his name correctly, did vocals, guitar, organ, and drum machines. He also wrote all the music on the album. Zachary Carruthers did bass guitar and backing vocals. Jason Secrist did drums and backing vocals. You'll notice I'm saying backing vocals a lot. We'll get into that in a second. And Ryan Neighbors did organ, synthesizer, piano, vocals, and Fender Rhodes. There's also a list of additional musicians that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 people. And the list of instruments is absolutely insane. This is a huge layered record, and I think that is what makes it so incredible, is all these different people. So let's talk about the album a little bit. I was going with my buddy who absolutely loves the Mars Volta to see the Mars Volta live in El Paso, Texas. I don't know what the exact year was, probably right around 2008, 2009. And there was another one of our buddies going, and he was like, hey, let me pick the music. I got this band I want you guys to hear. And he put in Portugal the Man, Censored Colors, and it felt like it was recorded simultaneously in 2008 and 1978. It was incredible. It wasn't derivative. It wasn't old-fashioned. It was new and unique, but also paid homage to these older prog rock bands. But what took me instantly was the harmonies on this record. All these singers are so talented, and they all are singing almost all the time with each other, and it is incredible. incredible. It is incredible. If we consider like going back to 68, 69 Pink Floyd and the way that how Rick Wright made Pink Floyd seem almost like religious church music with his organ playing, right? Portugal the Man does this with voices, does this with the choral quality of these songs, and the first two tracks are where it really shines through. And I was so excited. I went out and bought the record, and I listened to it, and I loved it. And I went and I brought it to my wife at the time, and I played it for her, and she said the most incredible thing that I think really sums this band up, and that is the minute that she heard it, she said she felt nostalgic for it, but she had never heard it before, right? She was nostalgic. It had a nostalgic sound even from the first listen, and I think that's a beautiful way to describe this. I think if you give this album a listen all the way through, it will very easily become one of your favorites. It's aggressive, it rocks really hard, but at the same time, it's choral and epic and moving, and the harmonies are absolutely incredible. I love this record. This is one of my favorites. It is absolutely incredible, and I think you'll love it too. I'm going to go quickly through the songs. Lay Me Back Down almost has kind of a Fleetwood Mac groove, but with like this almost choir size singing, and it's absolutely rocking incredible. And that goes into Colors, which is a darker choral song, and this is where we hear all of them singing together the most, is at the beginning, these first two songs, and they are a journey within themselves. That they start with this rock and roll and the almost the choir-like vocals. The first part is fast and aggressive, and the second part is slow and a lot more epic. These are the songs that were playing when my ex said, this is like, I'm nostalgic for this, and I'm hearing it for the first time. Really incredible. Then we go on to the song called And I. This is where the bass player really shines. Just absolutely outstanding, because it starts really slow, and then this really distorted bass takes over. Just incredible. There's something to be said for musicians that are so talented that it seems to flow so well. The vocals on these guys are just incredible. This John can sing beautifully, and we went and saw them on this tour, my buddy and I, and they performed this live, and it was incredible. It was incredible. One of the best shows I've ever experienced. We saw them in Santa Fe, New Mexico, in a tiny bar. We sat and talked with the band afterwards. They weren't huge at this point, as they are now, and it was really, really incredible. And I introduces a kind of single voice, and there's a lot of choral parts where everybody sings, but it's more traditional of a rock song, and it rocks. Salt. The song Salt. I haven't spoken about this lyrically, but the lyrics are really good, and they have a tendency to write phrases that really stick out and work well in their music. And there's a lot of them through this. And I'm always afraid and getting redundant when I go through these tracks, but here again we have this mix between the choral and the progressive rock that is absolutely incredible. And this guy can sing. Ooh, they can all sing. Created is a slower song, one of the slowest songs on the album. Brings back that choral sound, but also has him singing alone at points. And for me, this is a necessary point on the record, and I never skip the track. It's just this starting to calm down after all this insanely rocking tracks that are the first side of this. Out and In and Out is kind of the end of I'm going to say side one, and I don't know how this breaks up on the vinyl. I don't even know if it was released on vinyl. I got it on CD. But it's also a slower, epic kind of conclusion to the... And it's funny because my buddy and I talked about this a lot when we first got into it, in that the first side and the second side feel like two different journeys, or the first half and the second half. And I, for the longest time, was obsessed with the first half journey, and I thought that the second half journey was not as good. And my buddy was opposite. He loved the second half journey and thought that the first half of the journey wasn't as good. And then as time went on and we listened more and more, we just realized that this whole album is a masterpiece. And you jump all around. But yeah, this one kind of calms it down and ends the musical journey that is the first half, at which point you have Intermission, which is just an instrumental track, which I think was put on here as kind of a palate cleanser between these two epic sides of this album. And I do think that it is a way to make a modern CD have the feel of a vinyl that you have to flip, right? That there's two different sides. And the Intermission kind of does that with the CD. It feels like a song where they could have seriously put a little narration in there that's like, now please flip the record to side 2. And then we get a whole new kind of sound. And we start with the track New Orleans, which is a kind of slower but so layered. There's horns in this that are absolutely incredible. This really layered, incredible groove that introduces us to what the second side's going to be. And then we move on to Never Pleased. And I can't tell you how aggressive and epic this song is. Some of his screamiest singing, it is just incredible. This guy has a falsetto that is just insanely good. Never Pleased will I'm sure over time be one of your favorites. It's one of mine. Sit Back and Dream. So there's a weird almost medley of songs that go on here. Now Sit Back and Dream is a coda for Never Pleased. It's just kind of, I've always thought of it as the ending of that song. And then there's a song called Hard Times, and then there's a song called Our Times. And really, truly, to me, they're one song. And they're kind of a bluesy version, but this band is so hard to describe because it's not blues in the sound, it's blues in the content. Saying, talking about hard times, and then it changes tracks, but I feel like it's the same song and turns into Our Times. And then we get to All Mine, and All Mine, it's very slow, not very layered. I think it's almost a cappella, and his voice can sustain it. It's incredible. But I think there's somebody snapping, and it kind of has a 50s doo-wop almost. It doesn't ever go there, but it's super close. It's good. It's my least favorite track. There are times that I skipped this track, but it's followed by my favorite track on the album. It's so interesting to me the way that really good layered albums can grow on you, because you'll listen to it once and have one song that you think is absolutely incredible. Maybe two songs that you think are the peaks of the album. As you listen to it more and more stuff is revealed. I always find that in order to really truly judge an album, I have to listen to it more than once, just so that I can hear the parts that I missed the first time. When I first heard this album, it was all about the first side for me, and this second side seemed a little messy in its organization and wall of sound to an extent that I couldn't grab anything off of it. But as I listened to it more and more, I realized the genius of side two, and now I think that I love the whole album, but the next song, which is called 1989, is the peak of everything for me on this record. And honestly, if you're when you go check out this album, just start at the first track and listen to the album. But if you're like a couple tracks in and you're like, he's crazy, this is nonsense, skip to 1989 and turn it up and give it a listen. I think you'll really love it. There's an epic into the movie quality to this that is just absolutely outstanding. The musicians are at the top of their game here. It is an incredible album, and there's some kind of theremin that's probably not a theremin. It's probably I know they mentioned synthesizers in here. It's probably a synth, but oh man, this song is a game changer. It is incredible. It really is. This band overall are really, really confusing. I experienced with them for the first time the concept of I discovered this band first. I knew them when they were nobody. A lot of people would claim that Fill It Still is a sellout, and I disagree. I really do. It is definitely kind of a poppy 70s throwback, and it's more poppy than they were back with Censored Colors. But there's still so much prog, so many layers, and so much talent in these guys that I'm glad they've made it as big as they did. I really am. I think they're absolutely incredible. If you've only ever heard that song and think, oh, that's just kind of almost disco throwback and I'm not interested in that, go listen to Censored Colors. I guarantee you, if you like prog, if you like psychedelic, you will absolutely love this album. If you miss this band, start here. It's absolutely incredible. I think you will love it. Trust me. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you've heard this album and love it, let me know. If you heard this album and you didn't like it, let me know. If you're going to listen to it for the first time, come back and tell me what you thought. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you next time.